and offshoreinsiders.com. They are the same picks from the same handicappers, basically Picks Depot. Now we want more to be our U.S.-facing site, Offshore Insiders, for our international clients. But if you've been with offshoreinsiders.com for many years, and many of you have, no need to make the switch. I hope that's easy clarification. Look, I go by the old saying, it ain't bragging if it's true. And Joe Duffy's picks, we just continue to rock them. 32-15 in football. Swept name plays last week. What was it? We had the Rice game under the total, and admittedly the fourth quarter had to be a little bit low scoring than the Sunday night football interconference game of the year on New England. Told you, been in this business literally 30-something years. Been studying contrarian plays almost as long, even when it goes back to surveying some of the local guys that I used to know across the country, and it was as big of a contrarian play as I'd ever seen, as well as a strong computer play, where every sucker and their brother was for some reason betting on Tampa. We had New England, part of the 32-15 run. We've got Saturday, the AAC Total of the Year and Big Ten Cross-Divisional Total of the Year among 3 wise guy plays, 11 college football winners. Sunday, 5 NFL winners, including 5 NFL wise guy plays, I should say. 5 NFL wise guy plays, and you've got 3 major plays as well, 3 major plays as well. So big Saturday, big Sunday in football. By the way, big Thursday and Friday if you're watching this soon enough. I do have a free winner, and I got a lot on this report. I'm going to give you a free winner. I'm going to give you the report on who have been the best teams to bet on and bet against, who is the public betting, the best contrarian moves, the best sharp moves, all that and more. Very important report for you. Why everyone else, it's nothing but one long free pick phone. I like to give you information that you can use if you do bet on your own. Akron plus the 14.5 against Bowling Green. Now, look, college football is arguably the one sport that is different than the other sports in the U.S. sports when it comes to spread betting especially, but, even so in Major League Baseball, where most of my systems in all the sports would qualify as to fit under the umbrella as counterintuitive. College football has its share of intuitive systems, so to speak, and this would be one of them. It basically says in a game in which the odds makers are telling you points are very tough to come by, take the big underdog. In this case, the total is 46, I do believe. And that means 14.5 points in a game that's going to be low scoring is a lot more points than it would be if it were some wide open Big 12 game where the total would be in the upper 60s or even in some cases lower 70s. Big road underdogs in games that are expected to be low scoring specifically are 479 and 352. I have a lot of power ratings. My best power rating has this as a 9.8 point game, so that makes 14.5 a very good value, a 3.8% edge. And my top simulator has Akron covering 62% of more than 10,000 simulations, so Akron is your free winner. Now let's get to who have been the best teams to bet on this year in college football based on margin of cover. Bowling Green. But that's why they are probably a little bit overvalued. They're perfect 5-0 ATS, covering by an average of 16 points per game. Georgia, Michigan, Pittsburgh, and Iowa are all at 4-1. Georgia by 15.7. Michigan by 13.3. Pitt by 12.3. Iowa by 11.1 points per game. Who have been the best teams to bet against based on margin of cover? Wisconsin is 1-3 this year, minus 16.9 points per game. We have several teams at 1-4. Rice, Ohio, Vanderbilt, and Northwestern. Rice is failing to cover by an average of 16.4. Ohio by 15.4. Vanderbilt by 15. Northwestern by 12.5. A team that hasn't covered all year is Clemson, although their margin of cover is, 6th worst in the country at minus 12.3. And then you jump down to the 7th worst in the country. Missouri is also 0-5 by an average of 11.2. Kansas is an example of a team, they are 0-5, but they're not necessarily getting massacred ATS. So maybe they're not that horrible against the spread as the mere record would suggest. They're 0-5, failing to cover by an average of 9.9 points per game, but they would be 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. They would be 13th in the country, 13th worst team in the country based on the margin of cover. Now let's take a look at the same thing in the NFL. Buffalo's been the best team to bet on this year at 3-1 by an average of 13.6 points per game, followed by Arizona, 3-1 by 12.4. Now, it's true, your wallet would still say Dallas has been the best team, covering all 4 of their games this year, but they're covering by an average of 8.4, which is pretty impressive. And then 2 more teams at 3-1, Carolina by 6.8, the Chargers by 6 points per game. Best teams to bet against. Miami, ironically, although they're 2-2, Miami's 2-2 this year, but they're covering by an average of 9.8. Now, they were the best team to bet on last year, so gambling truly is cyclical, and it's not a coincidence. It's the teams that overachieved the previous year usually good bet against the next year, and then vice versa. The teams that underachieved are usually the best teams to bet on this year. Though Atlanta, they're struggling this year again, 1-3 by an average, failing to cover by an average of 9 points per game. Now, in the NFL, why don't we take a look at some of the best over-under teams, because, we have those stats in college football. We'll talk about that maybe next week. But Washington has gone over 3 of 4 by an average of 11 points per game. Kansas City, you would think, if anything, the public would be ahead of them, that, Kansas City might be an under team because they have such high totals, and they're already thought of as an explosive offense. But Kansas City is going over 3 of 4 by an average of 10.4. But the odds makers do know what they're doing, although Tampa's going over 3 of 4 by an average of only 4.6 points per game. So they haven't been necessarily an easy over, so to speak. Top under teams, Denver, the Chargers, and New England have all gone under all 4 of their games this year. Denver by an average of 10.1 points per game. Chargers by an average of 9.5. New England by an average of 9.4. And do make sure you follow us on the internet at picksdepot.com. Here's who the public is betting this weekend. Now, again, contrarians would say to fade these teams. The biggest public bets in terms of the number of tickets: Alabama against Texas A&M, Coastal Carolina against Arkansas State. That doesn't surprise me because Coastal Carolina really is in statement mode pretty much every game. South Alabama against Texas State, and a lot of people saying Georgia Tech will rebound. They are big public plays against Duke, but of course, what do we keep telling you? The public loves to bet those road favorites. We'll see that even more so in the NFL, but college football as well. The biggest bets in terms of money: Marshall against Old Dominion, UAB against Florida Atlantic, South Alabama against Texas State, San Diego State against New Mexico, and might be a little bit of a surprise, UConn against UMass. But then again, there is a theory when a bad team has a very rare chance to win a game, you bet on them. So I do think I know a couple people that wouldn't be surprised if UConn will be a bet by them this weekend. Now, these are the biggest sharp versus square metrics, which basically measures the money against the number of tickets and says side with the money. It's the biggest square, or the biggest sharp moves. Therefore, in this case, you'd want to bet on those teams. If you're a contrarian bettor, you want to bet against the ones I just said. But the sharp versus square, you'd want to bet with. If you're agreeing with the sharp versus square theory, I take the I report, you decide approach. Kent, Miami of Ohio, Missouri, Utah, and Florida International. Now we'll do the same thing when it comes to the NFL. Again, what did I say? The public loves to bet those road favorites. The biggest public moves in terms of the number of bets, which means, yes, a $5 bet is the same as a $5,000 bet. But again, contrarian bettors say those small, the Joey Bag of Donuts guys are the best ones to fade. The guy who's betting $10 on a 14 parlay, he's the one who's actually better for contrarian information. And that is why we just count all the bets equally. Again, the theory being to bet against these teams, these are the biggest public bets in terms of percentage. The Titans, Packers, Rams, now actually the Rams are a slight underdog. They've gone from underdog to favorite, so that may or may not. They did open, no, I'm sorry, they opened as an underdog. They are now a favorite, so the public still does like betting those big road favorites. And then, what might be one of the marquee games of the week, only because they were traditional rivalries, but really should be a mismatch. Dallas is a big public bet as well, but those first three especially. Now, in terms of money, and I do know some people who say they'd rather fade the money because they're going to be rooting on the same side as sports books. And as we know, sports books always make money in the long run. So again, a certain I'll report, you decide. But the biggest money bets this week, on again, percentage of the handle, Panthers, Raiders, Rams, and Titans. And now the sharp versus square metrics, which again, this theory would be to bet on these teams. This is who the sharp money is on: the Washington football team, Arizona Cardinals, Carolina Panthers, and Cincinnati Bengals. And now let's go with the biggest, let's see, let me get the, well, we'll go with the NFL. These are the biggest money moves in the NFL. I hopefully didn't erase the college football off my screen. Not really big ones in the NFL, so to speak. Minnesota was an 8-point favorite. They're now 9.5-point favorite to Detroit. And nothing's really going off of the key number. After that, not much to report. Carolina opened up as a 4.5-point favorite to Philadelphia. They're now down to 3.5. All right. Let me take a look at the college football version of this. Southern Mississippi opened up as a 2-point favorite to UTEP. They're now getting 2 points. And again, make sure you visit us at offshoreinsiders.com for the best bets, the sharpest bets, and we got them up now. Arizona State opened as a 10-point favorite to Stanford. They're now up to a 13-point favorite. Eastern Michigan opened up as a 1-point favorite to Miami of Ohio. They're now a 2-point underdog. And the only other really significant move, BYU opened up as a 3-point favorite to Boise State. They're up to a 6-point favorite. Again, please visit me at picksdepot.com or offshoreinsiders.com. Also, the Twitter feed's somewhat similar, at Offshore Insider or at Picks Depot. And most importantly, if you do like this information, please, I should have said at the top of this report, like, share, comment, subscribe. If you comment on a YouTube video, I'll answer your questions, and it's the best way to tell us you like this information. It also helps tell the search engines, look, you want more incredible information like this. Like I said, I'm not a pretty face that's just going to, in fact, I'll prove it to you. See, I'm not a pretty face. I know a lot of the big money ones, what do they got? Pretty faces that are basically reinforcing the sharp views. They want you, the square views, I'm sorry. They want you to keep betting on favorites. They want you to bet those road favorites. They want you to bet overs. At the sports books, they send you to. I make my money by selling winning picks. So you're going to get sharp information here. Yeah, we may not have, the big money the way some of those multi-million-dollar companies with all the investors have and whatnot, but you want sharp information from a pro bettor. I make all of my money from betting my plays and then also selling these picks. Sharp information only at offshoreinsiders.com.